I walked into that garage expecting to find my daughter sitting in her wheelchair. Instead, I found her standing, actually standing, tears streaming down her face, laughing. The poor mechanic I'd judged and dismissed had done the impossible. What I witnessed next brought me to my knees and changed everything I believed about miracles. This story will shatter everything you think you know about wealth, miracles, and what really heals a broken family. If you believe some things can't be bought with money, stay until the very end. Hit like if you're ready for a story that will move you to tears, and subscribe, because what happened in that small garage will restore your faith in humanity. My name is Jennifer, and 2 years ago I had everything money could buy. Penthouses overlooking the city, private jets waiting at my command, closets full of designer clothes I'd wear once and forget. My husband Sebastian built a tech empire worth billions, and I played the perfect wife. Charity galas, magazine covers, carefully crafted smiles for the cameras. But behind the closed doors of our marble mansion, our family was dying from the inside out. It all ended on Sophie's 6th birthday. She was wearing a pink dress, twirling around the ballroom we'd rented, her laughter filling every corner. She loved to dance more than anything in the world. I can still see her face, so alive, so full of dreams. The party went late, and I was exhausted from months of planning this perfect event. Sebastian wanted everything to be spectacular, as always. Nothing but the best for our little girl. I was driving us home that night. Sophie was in the back seat, humming the birthday song, playing with the diamond bracelet my mother had given her. I was tired, so tired my eyes kept drifting. I remember the traffic light, remember thinking I could make it through the yellow. I didn't see the drunk driver running the red light from the side. He hit us on my side, and the car spun like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Sophie survived. That's what the doctors kept saying, as if that word, survived, was supposed to comfort me. But my baby girl would never walk again. Permanent paralysis from the waist down. The doctors used cold, clinical words while I stood there in my torn, blood-stained dress, feeling my entire world collapse. Sophie was physically fine otherwise, they said, but I wasn't, and neither was she. The guilt ate me alive. Every single night I'd replay that moment. If I hadn't been so tired, if I'd stopped at the yellow light, if I'd seen him coming. The ifs became a prison I couldn't escape, and Sophie knew. Children always know. She stopped looking at me the same way. The warmth in her eyes turned cold, replaced by something that looked like accusation. She stopped talking to me, stopped asking for me when she cried. My daughter looked at me like I'd murdered her dreams, and maybe I had. Sebastian and I fell apart. He never said it directly, but I knew he blamed me. We started sleeping in separate rooms. We communicated through assistants, through text messages, through everything except actual conversation. When we did speak, it turned into arguments about whose fault it was, who should have done what differently. Sophie was caught in the middle, withdrawing deeper into herself with every fight she overheard. I threw money at the problem because that's what we knew how to do. $2 million on specialists around the world. We flew to Switzerland for experimental treatments, hired celebrity therapists, brought in spiritual healers, tried everything from traditional medicine to alternative practices. We bought Sophie a custom wheelchair that cost more than most people's houses, $150,000 of carbon fiber and advanced technology. But none of it worked. None of it brought back her smile, her voice, her spirit. The night before everything changed, Sebastian announced he was taking Sophie alone to see another specialist 3 hours away, just the two of them. "You've done enough damage, Jennifer," he said, his voice cold as ice. We fought worse than we ever had before. I threw a vase. He slammed doors. We screamed things we could never take back, and Sophie heard everything. I found her later, curled up in her wheelchair, crying herself to sleep. That night, alone in our empty mansion, I stared at photos of Sophie as a baby. Happy, whole, trusting. I called a divorce lawyer. I even wrote a goodbye letter to my daughter, convinced that disappearing from her life would hurt her less than having me around as a constant reminder of the worst day of her life. I was going to leave that night. Just disappear and let them heal without me. Then my phone rang. Sebastian, angry as usual. The wheelchair had broken down in some small town. Some nobody mechanic claimed she could fix it, and he was furious about the delay. He demanded I send our assistant with a replacement chair immediately. In the background, I heard Sophie crying, "I want to go home, Daddy." Something in her voice, the raw pain, the exhaustion, the loneliness, stopped me cold. I tore up the goodbye letter and got in my car. I drove for 3 hours, not knowing what I'd do when I got there, just knowing I couldn't let my daughter cry like that without at least trying one more time. When I arrived, I was shocked by what I found, a rundown neighborhood with cracked sidewalks and faded buildings, and there, squeezed between a laundromat and a convenience store, was the smallest, shabbiest auto repair garage I'd ever seen. I stepped out of my car in a $5,000 dress and heels, and I'll admit, my first thought was disgust. Get Sophie away from this place, this poverty. These people couldn't possibly help us. I walked into that garage ready to demand we leave immediately, checkbook already in my hand. That's when I saw her, Mia. She couldn't have been more than 25, wearing torn work clothes covered in grease stains. Her hair was messy, pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her shoes were cheap and worn. Everything about her screamed struggle, and everything about me screamed judgment. I didn't even try to hide my disgust. I pulled out my checkbook right there. "I'll pay you $5,000 to stop wasting our time," I said, my voice dripping with condescension. "My assistant can bring a proper technician who actually knows what they're doing." I thought I was being generous, offering her more money than she probably made in months just to go away. Mia looked at me with these calm, steady eyes and quietly said, "No, thank you." She refused my money. Nobody refuses my money. That's when Sebastian shocked me. He told me to leave if I couldn't be civil. My own husband, defending this stranger against me. "Mia's been kinder to Sophie in 1 hour than we've been in months," he said. The words hit me like a slap. I was furious, humiliated, ready to grab Sophie and leave. But then I actually looked at my daughter for the first time in I don't know how long. Sophie was sitting on the floor with Mia, and she was talking. Full sentences. Laughing. I couldn't remember the last time I'd heard her laugh. When had my daughter stopped talking to me? When had I become someone she couldn't even look at? I hid behind Sebastian's car and listened to them talk. Mia was asking Sophie about her dreams, not her disability, not about therapy or progress or limitations, just dreams. And Sophie said, "I used to dream of being a dancer." Used to, past tense, like her dreams had died with her legs. But Mia didn't accept that. "Used to?" she said gently. "Dreams don't die, sweetie. They just change shape. Maybe you won't dance the way you imagined, but that doesn't mean the music stops." I saw my reflection in the car window. Perfect hair, flawless makeup, designer everything. But my eyes were dead. Empty. When had I stopped being Sophie's mother and become just another person who looked at her and saw tragedy? When had I started treating her like broken glass instead of my brave, beautiful daughter? Sebastian found me outside, and for the first time in over a year, we had a real conversation. "She talks to a stranger, but not to me," I whispered through tears. Sebastian's voice cracked when he replied, "Maybe because the stranger doesn't look at her like she's broken." We both broke down right there, holding each other, finally admitting we'd lost our way. Mia told us the wheelchair would take all night to repair. Sebastian took Sophie to a nearby hotel, but I refused to leave. I needed to understand what this woman had that I didn't. What made her able to reach my daughter when I couldn't? It was awkward at first, me in my expensive dress, completely out of place in that garage, watching Mia work. The silence was thick with my shame and her quiet dignity. Finally, around 2 a.m, I asked her, "Why are you really doing this?" Her answer changed everything. "Because I know what it's like when people give up on you." She told me about her grandfather who raised her and taught her mechanics after her parents abandoned her. They said she'd amount to nothing, that a girl couldn't make it in this world alone. But her grandfather believed in her, taught her that fixing things with your hands could heal things in your heart. My defenses crumbled. I told her about the accident. For the first time since it happened, I spoke the words out loud to someone who wasn't paid to listen. I was driving. It's my fault she can't walk. I destroyed my daughter's life. I waited for judgment, for confirmation of what I already believed about myself. Instead, Mia said something that shattered me. You were there. You survived together. That's not destruction, that's love. She's alive because you protected her with your own body. Did you know that? The impact was on your side. You took the worst of it so she wouldn't. I had never thought of it that way. Never. Then Mia told me something she hadn't told anyone else. She has a daughter too. Lily, 6 years old, born with a rare heart condition. She needs surgery that costs $200,000, an impossible amount for someone like Mia. That's why she worked so hard, took any job, any hour. She was trying to save her own child. Why didn't you ask us for help? I asked, stunned that she'd been carrying this burden while helping us. Because Sophie needed someone to care without wanting something back, Mia said simply. When's the last time someone helped you without expecting payment? I couldn't answer. Nobody had. Ever. In my world, everything was a transaction. Let me help you, I said. And for the first time in 2 years, I did something useful. I took off my jewelry, my expensive heels, and I asked Mia to teach me. We worked side by side through the night. I got grease on my $5,000 dress, and I didn't care. She showed me how the wheelchair worked, let me hand her tools, explained things in simple terms. I felt useful. I felt human. By 4 a.m, the wheelchair was fixed. But Mia seemed nervous, hesitant about something. She kept glancing at a corner of the garage where something was covered with an old tarp. Finally, she took a deep breath and showed me. It was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. Custom leg braces connected to a support system built from scrap metal and old parts, held together with genius engineering. I've been designing this for my daughter, Mia explained, her hands shaking. I thought if I could perfect it, maybe Lily could walk someday. But I've never tested it on anyone. I don't know if it actually works. Then she looked at me with these desperate, hopeful eyes. What if Sophie could try it? My heart stopped. Doctors said she'll never walk, I whispered. Doctors say a lot of things, Mia replied. But her muscles are still there. This won't cure her, but maybe a few steps? I was terrified. Terrified of giving Sophie false hope, terrified of failing her again. But I saw something in Mia's face. She wasn't asking to experiment on my child. She was offering to trust us with her most precious creation, the thing she'd built with her own daughter's future in mind. When Sebastian brought Sophie back in the morning and I explained, he exploded. Absolutely not. You want to experiment on our daughter? Haven't you hurt her enough? We fought right there in front of everyone, years of pain and blame erupting again. Sophie started crying, Mia looked stricken, and I felt our family breaking apart all over again. Then Sophie screamed, "Stop!" We all froze. She hadn't raised her voice in 2 years. I'm not broken glass. I'm still here. Stop talking about me like I'm not. Let me try. Her face was red, tears streaming, but there was fire in her eyes. Fire I thought had died forever. Sebastian and I both went silent. When had we stopped listening to her? When had our guilt become louder than her voice? Mia carefully explained the device to Sophie. Support braces, assisted movement, safety harness. It wouldn't cure her, but it might allow standing, maybe a few steps. Sophie looked Mia straight in the eye and said with absolute certainty, "I want to try." It took 20 minutes to attach everything. My hands shook as I held Sophie's hand. Sebastian filmed on his phone, unable to speak. Mia's hands trembled as she secured each strap, each connection. The weight of the moment pressed down on all of us. The first attempt failed. Sophie tried to stand and immediately fell back into her wheelchair. My heart shattered. The second attempt, same result. The third time, her legs shook so violently I begged her to stop. "No!" Sophie said through gritted teeth. "One more time!" On the fourth attempt, something different happened. The device whirred to life, the braces locked, and Sophie's legs responded. She was standing. Actually standing. For the first time in 2 years, my daughter was on her feet. "Small movements," Mia coached gently. "Let the device help you." Sophie took one shaky step. Then another. 3 steps total before her strength gave out and she needed the wheelchair again. But they were 3 real, actual steps. Sophie started laughing and crying at the same time. I did it! I walked! I collapsed on the floor, sobs tearing out of me. Sebastian dropped his phone and rushed to embrace us both. We held each other, really held each other, for the first time since the accident. 2 years of pain releasing in that moment. I looked up to thank Mia, but she'd backed away into the corner, crying quietly, giving our family this moment, this stranger who'd given us back something we thought we'd lost forever. We went home that day different people. Sophie practiced with the device every day. Sebastian and I started talking again, real conversations, not fights. Our marriage began to heal, but I couldn't stop thinking about Mia and her daughter Lily. A week later, I decided to surprise her. I had a check for $200,000, enough for Lily's surgery, and a job offer to head our new foundation helping disabled children. I drove to the garage excited, ready to change Mia's life the way she'd changed ours. But when I looked through the window, I froze. Sophie was there. My daughter was in that garage, and she was standing, using Mia's device, helping another little girl take steps, coaching her, encouraging her, completely independent. My shock turned to confusion, then to hurt. How was Sophie here? Sebastian had said she was with her tutor. They'd been lying to me, coming here in secret all week, old wounds ripped open. They didn't trust me. Even after everything, I was still the one they hid things from. I burst through the door. What is happening here? Sophie's face went white with guilt. Sebastian appeared from the back room, hands up defensively. Jennifer, let me explain. He'd been bringing Sophie every day to practice. Didn't tell me because he thought I needed rest, that I'd been through too much. But what I heard was, you don't trust me with our daughter. You think I'll break her again. Then Sophie started crying. I wanted to surprise you, Mommy. I've been practicing to walk further. I wanted to walk to you without the device. I wanted to show you I'm okay. All my anger drained away. She'd been working so hard, building toward this gift for me, and I'd almost ruined it with my pain and insecurity. But before we could fully reconcile, a woman rushed into the garage, panic on her face. Mia, the hospital called about Lily. She collapsed. They said come immediately. A small girl stood near the door, wearing a hospital bracelet, looking weak and pale. Mia's face went white. She needs emergency surgery now, the woman said. They said within 48 hours or... She couldn't finish the sentence. Mia collapsed, sobbing. I don't have the money. I'll never have the money in time. I didn't hesitate. We'll cover everything. Sebastian immediately agreed. Whatever she needs. Mia tried to refuse through her tears, but I took her hands. You gave me my daughter back. Let me save yours. Then Sophie did something that made me prouder than any amount of steps ever could. She took off her diamond bracelet, the one my mother had given her, worth $50,000. Sell this. For Lily. It was one of her most treasured possessions. I don't need it. She needs her life. We all raced to the hospital together. The surgery was scheduled immediately. I held Mia while she held Lily. Sophie and Lily held hands, 2 little girls who'd found friendship in struggle. 2 families from completely different worlds, united by something money had never bought us. Real love. Lily's surgery was successful. 6 months later, both girls were thriving. Sophie was walking more every day, sometimes without the device at all. Lily was using the device for her first steps. They'd become inseparable best friends. Mia was running a foundation we'd built together, helping disabled children all over the city. We'd opened a facility in the same neighborhood as her garage, preserving the original garage as a reminder of where miracles began. I'd sold our mansion and bought a normal house nearby. I worked at the foundation every day, hands-on, no designer clothes or pretense. Just me, doing work that mattered. My marriage with Sebastian was stronger than it had ever been. We'd learned to talk, to listen, to be present. 1 year to the day after that first visit, we held a ceremony at the original garage. Sophie walked in holding only Mia's hand, no device, just determination and 50 careful steps. She ran the last few steps into my arms. Lily took her first independent steps using the device. Both families cried and celebrated together. That's when I told them my news. After years of doctors saying I couldn't have more children, I was pregnant. Miracles really do come when you open your heart. Sophie was going to be a big sister. I walked into that garage as a woman drowning in guilt and money, believing I'd destroyed my daughter's life. I learned 3 truths that day. First, miracles aren't bought. They're built by people who care. Second, the people we judge might be the angels we need. And third, sometimes the only way to save your family is to let a stranger show you how to love again. If you're broken, if your family is falling apart, if guilt is eating you alive, hear this: you are not beyond saving. The answer might not come from expensive solutions or perfect plans. It might come from a greasy garage, a kind stranger, and the courage to let go of control. Real wealth isn't measured in bank accounts. It's measured in steps taken, hands held, and hearts healed. If this story moved you to tears, hit that like button and share it with someone who's struggling today. Subscribe for more true stories of hope, redemption, and the miracles hiding in ordinary places. Comment below, what impossible thing are you believing for? Let's build a community of people who refuse to give up. I'm Jennifer. I had everything money could buy, but nothing my heart needed. A poor mechanic named Mia taught me that the greatest miracles happen when we stop trying to buy solutions and start building connections. Sometimes the person with the least has the most to give. Sophie is now 10 years old and walks independently most days. Lily's heart is strong. Mia's foundation has helped over 200 children. And our family? We're finally whole.
Thank you for listening to this story until the end. Hopefully every moment, every detail in the story has brought you emotions, thoughts, and maybe a little joy or motivation. Thank you for spending time with us, and hope that the next stories will continue to accompany you and touch your heart.